Yogena chittasya padena vacham malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopakarottam pravaram muninam patanjalim pranjalimanatosmi लये संबोधयेत् चित्तं विक्षिप्तं शमयेत् पुनः सकाशायं विजानीयात् समप्राप्तं न चालयेत्. Om. We have been studying the nature of the kleshas, and in the sutra number 3, the sage tells us that avidya, asmita, ragadvesha, abhiniveshaha, panchakleshaha, 5 of them. And he also talks about how avidya is the basis, is the fertile ground for the other kleshas to come about. And they come about either in very dormant form, prasupta, or it may be sprouting, tanu, or it may be disjointedly vichinna, or it may be fully expressed udara. That also we studied quite in depth. And then we also saw how the ego or asmita is because the power of the seer, drik, is misunderstood to be the power of the seeing organ, drik darshana shaktyoho. That also we looked at it, and we saw that because of this attachment is caused, and attachment will become enhanced every time we have experienced something that gives us pleasure. Sukhanushayi ragaha, then conversely dukkhanushayi dvesha. So this was the summary of what we have so far studied. So the klesha characteristics can be either they can come individually, separately, or they can come together. So we also looked at that, how sukha and dukkha can also come simultaneously. And we took the example of Shantanu, where his wife was throwing the children into the river, and how until the 8th child was born, the prema for his wife, the extent of the prema for his wife was greater than the dvesha he had for her act. And the quotient of the dvesha goes on increasing when she throws every single child, and the quotient of the prema also goes on decreasing in each instance. So the time comes when the 8th child is thrown, then the dvesha or the disappointment gets over him. So therefore the whole Mahabharata takes place. You can see there is the nucleus of Mahabharata. Every decision from then on was adharma, was wrong, and it needed an external agency. Sri Krishna is completely an external agency, and that external agency had come and had to correct it. So it is critical that this purpose of some Kriya Yoga, which is Tapaswadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhana, is for the sake of weakening of these kleshas. So in other words, before jumping into the war, we must also know the enemy. So that's why we are studying these kleshas in such depth. So let's look at an episode in the Sundarakanda of Srimad Valmiki Ramayana. In Valmiki Ramayana, Hanuman actually lands in Lanka. So a beautiful description Valmiki Maharshi has given. So what was his mission to go to Lanka? His mission was to find if Sita is there or not. That was the mission, basically. But was that all he did? If you look at the entire Sundarakanda, the excellence of Hanuman is that he did not limit his search to the project, his project to the search of Sita only. He develops an extremely keen eye. As soon as he enters there, first thing he does is he looks at the defense of the entire fort, even before entering. So he goes around the entire fort. He could not find a single crevice through which even an ant could enter. So perfectly the fortification of Lanka had taken place. So what was the only way she could get in? The only way she could get in was Lankini, through Lankini in the main door. So using this metaphor for understanding the klesha, these kleshas are the ramparts of avidya. Avidya is so strongly fortified by asmita ragadvesha abhinivesha that for the meditator there is no way to enter it. In fact, Srimad Ramayana gives a lot of insight as to how to understand Yoga Sutra also. So how can Aspita Raga Dvesha, how can we penetrate? There is one entry for penetrating. And that one entry is actually Lankini, and this Lankini actually exemplifies the Abhinivesha, because she is the one who is clinging to the fort to protect it. So what is it that is actually coming in the way of our Chittavritti Nirodha? The Chittavritti Nirodha is, here we have got avidya, and this avidya is fortified by ragadvesha, asmita, and the only way that we can understand the power of this fortification is through understanding abhinivesha. So he subdues Lankini. So we also do this occasionally, whenever we sit in contemplation, we know very well that after all, the nature of this body is it is going to perish. We have seen how Atman is real and eternal. All this is known intellectually. But when it comes to the threat of our life, and we are able to understand this, that this body is perishable, is the subduing of Lankini. And now you enter into the personality, into the heart, into the mind of this meditator. Hanuman enters into Lanka, and what does he find? What he finds first is, beautifully he describes, in my hometown of Kishkinda, the way in which the town planning has been done is that all the houses are actually attached to one another. In fact, one continuous townhome. Every house is sharing the wall. But look at this Lanka. In Lanka, between each buildings there is separation by passages. And Hanuman is thinking, it is very easy to set fire to Kishkinda, because all you need to do is you have to set fire to one house. Then just like a string of fireworks, every house will be burned. But look at the town planning of Lanka. Every house is separated. All of them are in the city of Lanka. Kleshas are like that. All the kleshas are within the personality. Asmita, raga, dvesha is within the personality, but they are separated from each other in just like the town planning of Lanka, so that what happens is, even if you try to control one, you set fire to one house, the other house does not catch fire. Let's try to put a fire to our sukha, then dukkha will come. You try to set fire to dukkha, asmita will come. Why? Because they are together but not attached. This is the fundamental observation of Yoga Shastra, and then it becomes more vividly clear when we think of the contemplations of Hanuman in Sundarakanda. So the definition of Abhinivesha comes. So Abhinivesha is something to be contemplated upon very carefully. So Sutra number 9 is talking about Swarasavahi Vidushopi Tatha Rudhaha Abhiniveshaha. So there are a lot of technical terms. First technical term is Abhinivesha. So how do we parse this word Abhinivesha? Abhi, the prefix, Sanskrit prefix Abhi, means to take possession of. The root vish means to enter. Ni, when you prefix it with nivesha, it means it is the abode, it is the house, it is the location. So nivesha here is our body-mind complex. This nivesha has been abhi, taken possession of. That's why the Yoga Shastra uses the word abhinivesha. Of course, everybody translates it as saying it is clinging to life, but here is the etymology of the word, which makes it even more clear. So what does it do? Swa rasa vahi. Swa rasa, rasa means a fuel here. There is a fuel in it. This fuel is flowing. When this fuel is flowing, this possession of the abhi, or the taking the possession of our mind, of our chitta, continuously is energized without stop. So what is this fuel? This fuel is samskaras. So the fuel of the samskaras flow continuously. Now look at another question. So there is a fuel of samskara which is pushing everybody to be attached to the body, but how is it related to death? Because in the commentary they say it is clinging, and it is fear of death. Clinging, understood. Where is fear of death? How did the fear of death come? There must be a cause for this fear. What is the cause for the fear? The nimitta, or the cause for the fear. Cause for the fear is when death is imminent. When a person is sick, or when a person is so old that death is round the corner. But what about this young person? Ashishto, dridishto, balishtha. Upanishad is saying a person who has got full of ambition, asishtha, and he is also very, very accomplished, dridishta, and is strong, balishtha, and is the one who has got all the wealth. Tasyevam vit sarva vittasya purnasyat. He is also wealthy. And you go to an actuary and then give all the vital statistics. What does the actuary say? You are going to live for 75, 80 years more. But still he is in the grip of fear of death immediately. So therefore this klesha of clinging to life The commentators say, nimittam vina klesha. That means this klesha is there even though there is no cause at all. Therefore, in the fivefold kleshas that Patanjali actually listed, Abhinivesha is listed separately. Again, one of the important points to note in the structure and organization of Yoga Shastra is each one of these five are distinctly independent, but they are mutually supportive. So now the next question is, what is the emotion that comes when it comes to clinging of life? The emotion is, I don't like to die. And as soon as we say, I don't like to die, there is a dvesha towards death, isn't it? Now the question is, how is this dvesha towards death different from the dvesha pointed out in the previous sutra, dukkhanushayi dvesha? What is the difference? The difference is abhinivesha, that is the fear of death, actually belongs to the experience of the past life. Dvesha belongs to the experience of the present life. That is the distinction. Even an infant, when it sees something that threatens it, the baby is scared. That is also abhinivesha. So from where did that abhinivesha come? Because there is no hatred in the mind of a child. Still there is fear. That is because dvesha for death is carried over from the past lives. Because in every one of the past lives, we have experienced death. And in every single one of our past life, at death, we have been agitated. That is the reason why there is fear of death. And therefore our chitta vritti gets disturbed as soon as we even start thinking about death. Because all those samskaras of the past lives where we have died, all those samskaras swarasavahi. This will actually provide fuel for the chitta vritti being disturbed. And this happens to vidushopi, even for the most learned. Do you read in the entire Puranas, anyone, whether it is a Manushya, Rakshasa, or a Devata, or a Rishi, saying, I am doing the tapas, and Mahavishnu presents yourself and say, please give me death? Have you seen anybody make that prayer? On the contrary, what are all our Rakshasas do? They, with great tapas, first thing is that tapas is they have done tapas swadhyaya, they are enormously learned. Ravana, as you know very well, he was extraordinarily learned, Sarva Shastra Pravina. But what does he do when he sits in dhyana, when he sits in meditation, when Bhagavan appears before him? He says, I don't want to die. And then, of course, the answer is very straightforward. You have to die someday, so I will make my death as impossible as possible. This is because of, again, past experience and all our previous janmas, we have faced death. So we are at the same time, with this not inviting death and asking for not dying. Therefore, there is Swarasa, there is Vahi, there is Vidvat is there, then Abhinivesha is also there. But actually, what do we want? In all these things, actually what we want is Amritatvam. Really what we want, immortality. And we all know that there is no immortality for the body. Still, with all our study of the Upanishad, the Bhagavad Gita, etc., 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 still we are in the grip of the fear of death. Vidushopi. So this is the situation. We will see what solution is there. Patanjali Maharshi is going to give us a solution for this. But here I want to raise another question. Is there any validity for Abhinivesha? Do we even need to have Abhinivesha? Why did Ishvara create this clinging to life? Why did he do that? Is there any purpose? Because in Ishvara's creation, nothing is without purpose. Nothing is for ordinary purpose. Everything is done with the highest purpose only. That is why he is Ishvara. And Ishvara is free from klesha. We have also already seen this in the previous chapter. Klesha, karma, vipaka, ashayaihi, aparamrushtaha, purusha visheshaha, Ishvaraha. So Ishvara is very distinctly free from all the kleshas, including Abhinivesha. And he is well aware. Here we are talking about the Prajapati, the first creator, Ishvara, and that Ishvara also is going to die. Even he cannot be there forever. Only with reference to our span of life, it is immensely big, that's all. But he is also going to end. But he doesn't have Abhinivesha. Whereas I have Abhinivesha. Why did Ishvara embed Abhinivesha in the heart of all living beings? And we cannot talk anything about living beings other than humans. Because as far as non-human living beings are concerned, we know that there is only Rajastamo gunas in them. And because there is only Rajastamo gunas, everything is Prakriti based. So they just take birth, they live, they have got fear, and they die. That is all. There is no dhyana, there is no contemplation. But human beings are not like that. Because we have got to think, we have been given a mind to think, Chitta has been given. Chitta vritti is known to us. Chitta vritti is known to us. If there is any Chitta vritti in the mind of an animal, it doesn't know what Chitta vritti is. But we know. And therefore now the question is, why should there be Abhinivesha? Here let us look at a little bit of a philosophical angle and say, if Abhinivesha was not there, if fear of death was not there, do you think our mind would have turned to knowledge? Please think about it. We would never have considered Atma Jnana, Purusha Jnana, and with reference to Yoga Shastra, it is the knowledge of Purusha. Do you think we would ever be motivated to think of Purusha? We would ever be motivated to think of Atman if fear of death is not there? Because we are talking about Vidushopi. Again, we have got to read into the... already he is a Vidvamsa. Here we have, all of us are Vidushaha. We are learned. Because we are all learned, we can understand what samskara and what vasana is. Only thing that is the gap in our knowledge is we do not know how to use our vidvat. We do not know how to use our knowledge. to combat this abhinivesha, the moment we think that if abhinivesha was not there for me, I would have had no motivation whatsoever to get Atmajnana, to get Brahmajnana, to get Ishvara Jnana. So we would be no different from an animal. But Ishvara wants to create a set of beings and give them an option of being able to separate Prakriti with Purusha. It has so happened that Prakriti and Purusha, nature and the spirit, have got combined. Without the combination of nature and spirit, there is no life at all. Imagine if it is only Prakriti without Purusha, then it is a stone. That is all. Because of this combination, there is sentiency in me. To encourage us not to abuse or not to refuse to use this sentiency, abhinivesha is placed. So really, it is a blessing that Ishvara has given to us so that you can create an urgency for introspection. And that urgency he has created. And now, what does a Vidwan do? A Vidwan will see this mixture of cause, which we call as nimitta, and the effect, which we call as karana. Which we call as cause, which is karana, and the material, which is called upadana. These two are mixed. And where did that mixture happen? This nimitta karana, the cause for klesha, is ignorance or avidya. And this cause for this ignorance is because Purusha has been intricately mixed with Prakriti. So this, what is the scope now available for the Vidvamsa? For this Vidvamsa, te pratiprasava heyaha sukshmaha. So comes the instruction in the next sutra, sutra number 10. Te pratiprasava heyaha sukshmaha. Pratiprasava means what? You actually go back and resolve all that belongs to Prakriti into Prakriti. So when we actually relegate the portion of our personality which belongs to matter, then when you remove what happens, what will be left is the Chetana or the spirit. Te pratiprasava heyaha sukshmaha. Sukshma means what? Absolutely subtle. This sukshmaha, or what here, to what does this word sukshma or subtle refer to? It refers to the kleshas. So look at this. Why does the scripture call klesha as subtle? Because it's not, you cannot grasp that. There is no substance with which you can actually grasp this. Suppose you ask me, why do you have fear of death? Then I can say I am clinging to the body. That's why I have fear of death. Then you ask me, what is fear of death? How can I answer that question? I cannot answer that question because it is sukshma. So abhinivesha is sukshma. Shantanu is absolutely attached to Ganga Devi. That attachment, raga, sukshma. It turns into dvesha, sukshma. Ignorance, avidya, sukshma. Ego, suppose you ask me, tell me where exactly is the ego located in your personality. Where can I point out? Suppose you ask me, where is your organ of seeing? I can point out to the organ. Suppose you ask me, where is your ignorance? How can I show? Where can I show? It has no dimension. It has no substance. It has no form. It doesn't have any coordinates. And therefore it is sukshma. So Patanjali Maharshi uses sukshmaha. So this kleshas, now let us look at the kleshas. To whom does death belong to? Does the death belong to the Purusha or the Prakriti? The death of the body, to whom does it belong to? Prakriti. What is the object or the target for sukha and dukkha? Prakriti. I like something, then it must be a thing, which means it must have nama rupa, it must have form. Anything that has got name and form belongs to Prakriti. And therefore, avidya is ignorance of the reality. So the unreal is belonging to Prakriti. In other words, every aspect of the kleshas, even though we cannot definitely pinpoint where the klesha resides, still we can glean its location. The location of the klesha is chitta. Can you point out where chitta is? No. But we can point out that kleshas are all located in chitta. And in chitta also the Chaitanya is there. The consciousness principle is also there. So the mixture of the mixture of vidya and avidya, the mixture of prakriti and purusha is located in chitta. That's why chitta is the subject matter of Yoga Shastra. And therefore now, in the chitta that we have, in that chitta, what was required was, first of all, we defined the project. We defined the objective of the entire. A yogi will have to get rid of the kleshas. Project definition. And therefore you have to know what is the swarupa of the klesha. How to identify. That also we discussed. We also discussed that through Kriya Yoga, by means of tapasvadhyaya Ishvara pranidhana, what happens is these kleshas get weakened. Tanu karna. So look how how that structure of the teaching is developing. First point is there is klesha. And this klesha is causing difficulty, and the worst difficulty that klesha has caused is abhinivesha. In the relative harm done for a yogi, among the 5 kleshas, which is the worst is abhinivesha. And that is caused by avidya. So therefore all these kleshas have to be removed by a yogi. And therefore he has to know what is the nature of this klesha. Klesha swarupa is what we studied up to sutra number 9. And then It is also said because of tapaswadhyaya Ishvara pranidhana, then this kleshas become weak. As it becomes weak, the knowledge of the Purusha will be there. This is called Purusha Khyati. But this Purusha Khyati is still in such a field where it cannot grow. You have got this potential ability of this seed. This seed, you are keeping it in a jar. How can it sprout? This has got to be put in a fertile field for that to sprout. And therefore, we have got to make sure that this vrittis that can come up, sometimes in dhyana, in deep meditation, these vrittis may be under control. But once we can lose control on our dhyana and we come back into the world, then what happens? They come back again. And where do they express themselves? They express themselves in the chitta. So the only way by which this chitta vritti nirodha can happen is when the entire kleshas are reduced into their nascent form, and by means of jnana you roast it or burn it. And how can we do that? Shiva has got 3 eyes. So what is the role of these 3 eyes? He keeps his third eye closed all the time. 2 eyes open, and they represent duality, the dvandva. We have 2 eyes. What do these 2 eyes do? They actually are identifying organs. They identify rupa. Why 2 eyes? Why we should not have only 1 eye like a cyclope? We are given these 2 eyes so that we deliberately protect, cherish, nourish sukha dukkha, shita ushna, labha nashta. We are the ones who are nourishing this duality. Shiva also, he protects the duality in the world, sukha dukkha, labha nashta, all of those things. He will make sure it will continue. He will create the abhinivesha, clinging to life, janma after janma after janma after janma. And he will wait for that day, one janma when I take, in which janma I will start working on pratiprasavaheyaha sukshmaha. I will use the knowledge of abhinivesha so that I can separate in the chitta the prakriti, consign that to the prakriti, give it back to the prakriti, and retain the Purusha Khyati, or the knowledge of the Purusha. So look at the metaphor of Shiva. When Shiva is sitting in meditation, has closed all the 3 eyes. When he opens the eyes, that is throughout the period of the existence of the world, the whole world will experience sukha dukkha, labha nashta. Then in his dhyana, Parvati will come and stand before him. When she comes with an immense amount of beauty, still his third eye is closed. These 2 eyes that he has opened, for a infinitesimal brief moment, the chitta of even Bhagavan Shiva is disturbed. Now he opens the third eye. When he opens the third eye, he discovers that it is Manmatha, Manam Mathayati iti Manmatha. Manmatha is one who actually churns our mind. What is it that churns our mind? It is Sukha Dukkha. This churning of the mind, when he opens the third eye, he actually reduces Manmatha to ashes, and that is the metaphor of Prakriti Laya, which this sutra is talking about. So the purpose of Pratiprasava is to open our third eye. When we open the third eye, even the most beautiful, bewitching Parvati, which represents the entire Prakriti, does not destroy Parvati, but this opening of the eye destroys that desire. This is also a very important point. By opening the third eye, Shiva could have destroyed the entire creation, isn't it? Why he pinpoints and only destroys Manmatha, reduces to ash, and nothing else? In that heat, even Parvati could have been burnt. If Parvati was burnt, Prakriti is gone. Then there is no conversation at all. But Prakriti should continue. If Prakriti doesn't continue, what about the myriad number of jivas who are not yet liberated? This later on I'm going to speak in one of the conferences on 23rd January. Adau karma prasangat kalayati kalusham matra kukshau sthitam mam. The Aparadakshama, Shiva Aparadakshama, Kramapana Sutra, where Adi Shankara says, because of the previous karma prasanga, I am sleeping in the womb of my mother. If the womb of the mother was not available at all, where is the hope for me, this jiva? Where is the hope for this jiva to get liberated? And therefore it becomes essential to take the jiva, divatva bhava, to take the human form, realize the effect of the kleshas, and like Hanuman did, he burns Lanka but doesn't burn Ravana. He could have burnt Ravana too. He could have done that. Why did he not do it? It is because in the anxiety, in the eagerness to do Chitta Vritti Nirodha, we should not destroy ourselves. And therefore he protects. So the next sutra is saying, Dhyana heyaha tadvrittayaha. All these vrittis. What are the vrittis or turnings? What are these turnings? Avidya, asmita, ragadvesha, abhiniveshani. All these things can be overcome by means of dhyana. Dhyana heyaha tadvrittayaha. So for this dhyana, using of the dhyana, kleshas, what kind of kleshas can be there? Kleshas can be in the gross form. What is the gross form of dvesha, anger, krodha? What is the gross form of attachment, over possessiveness? We don't give freedom to people who are with us because we are so possessive of that person. This is stula, gross. A person becomes afraid of dying. When a person becomes afraid of dying, somebody said that, hey Parikshit Maharaja, you are going to die of snake bite 7 days from now. Look how seriously Parikshit takes that prediction. Who can, with any authority, tell me when I will die? And we believe. Somebody will look at my horoscope and say, "You have got alpayus, you are going to live only for." I was told, I think I must have shared this with you. I was told that I will not live beyond 60 years of age. And then, suppose I start getting agitated when I am 50 years, 10 years, 9 more years, 8 more years. What would have been the quality of my life in the last few years? I would have been miserable, isn't it? And I would have caused misery for everybody around me also. So look at this. This is a sthula vritti, isn't it? Fear can be sthula vritti. Ragadvesha can be sthula vritti. Ignorance. Ignorance, what is the sthula vritti of ignorance? Cynicism, skepticism. Everybody, the whole science is saying, just get vaccinated, you will be fine. Why is it we don't believe? I mean, what more empirical evidence does a person need? And for the last 2 years, people have been vaccinated. How many vaccinated people have died of vaccination? Again, if vaccination is a cause for death, then vaccination should have caused a lot of death, right? Why did it not do? Look at this sthula klesha. It's at the grossest form, ignorance is manifesting. So therefore, this vritti can be sthula. The vritti can also be sukshma. It can also be sukshma vritti. Sukshma vritti is, it will be lingering and will be in denial. So being in denial of reality is this sukshma chitta vritti. So this sutra number 11 is talking about dhyana heyaha tadvrittayaha, means this gross chitta vrittis can be weakened by means of kriya yoga. See, here there's a paradigm shift in the teaching. So kriya yoga tapasvadhyaya ishvara pranidhanani kriya yoga, very, very clearly Patanjali Maharshi says it is going to weaken the kleshas. When he says tanukaranarthascha weakens the klesha, what does it mean? It cannot completely neutralize the klesha. Isn't it? Still there will be lingering klesha. Only thing is it is weak. In other words, kriya yoga tapasvadhyaya ishvara pranidhanani can only weaken the kleshas. It cannot remove. But our project is the kleshas have to be removed. So Patanjali Maharshi in this sutra is saying to make to remove or to make it weaker than the weakest can be done only by means of dhyana. Now we come to the concept of meditation. Now meditation upon what? Meditation upon the Purusha, my true nature. On that one has to meditate. We can use a very everyday experience to understand this. You know, we go to a beach. And when we go to a beach, we sit on the sand. And then when you get up, what happens? You would have sat there, you would have lied there, you would have probably lied back on your back. So what do you find? You find that all your clothes have been covered by sand. This is the stula klesha. Because it bothers you. You have this sand in your socks. You try to walk, the pebbles will hurt your feet. So, but it's very easily fixed. You just take out your clothes and then just shake off all the grains of the sand. So this is how we can also take off the stula kleshas by practicing Kriya Yoga. You will get angry. So when we get angry, we apply the rule. You remember way back in the beginning of our studies, I talked about how a person can overcome anger by just waiting. A very mature person will just sleep away. After 24 hours, his anger will go. Uttame kshanakopasyaat madhyame ghatikadvayam adame ahoratraum papishthe maranantakam. You remember this Subhashita I spoke many years ago. So therefore we have this cloth, we just because we know that this sand can be shaken off, we do that. So sthula or the gross dirt is removed by means of a little viveka, a little bit of study of shastra. That gross is done, but then you will see there is a stain. That stain cannot be removed by just brushing it off. So for that you have got to wash. So you wash that, and then you will find that there is still stain. Then what you do is you use some stronger detergent and then remove. Similarly, in dhyana also we have to apply different methodologies. Again, there is no single method of doing dhyana. So in dhyana, in meditation also, we have got to design a program in which very clearly we will separate our kleshas into stula and sukshma. And for both of them, the antidote is same, that is dhyana. And the process is, whenever there is a stula klesha, we have to get rid of it very quickly. And that can be done by intensifying the Ishvara Pranidhana. It can be done by intensifying the Swadhyaya. Constantly telling ourselves, saying that I have to get this viveka. I have to get this viveka between the Purusha and the Prakriti. And understand the Prakriti part in relation to the metrics of the behavior of Prakriti. The way in which Prakriti behaves is, there is Srishti Sthiti Laya. And therefore for everything there is Srishti Sthiti Laya in my personality belongs to Prakriti. My body has Srishti Sthiti Laya has taken place. My mind, my thought, Srishti Sthiti Laya is there. My emotions, Srishti Sthiti Laya is there. Therefore all of them belong to Prakriti only. So therefore the Pratiprasavaheyaha Sukshmaha, the previous sutra says, anything that belongs to Prakriti, separate it and look at it as belonging to Prakriti. Otherwise we will either become a Dasharatha or we will become a Dashakantha. See, very interestingly, again in Ramayana, Dasharatha is supposed to have 10 rathas. That means in 10 cardinal directions he is worried about security. Then Dashakantha, he has got 10 heads. And the 10 heads are always worried about when the death will come. He is an Abhinivesha. So again, Ramayana creates such a beautiful metaphor, such a consistency. That is, you look at the personality of Dasharatha, you look at the personality of Dashakantha. Dasharatha's kleshas are sukshmaha. Dashakantha's kleshas are stula. And that's why both of them died a miserable death. So this dhyana heya, these two beautiful sutras, they pratiprasava heyaha sukshmaha and also dhyana heyaha tadvrittayaha, these two become such a critical methodology. We'll see more, a little heavy in today's ideas, are a little heavy and needs some more contemplation. So we'll continue our study in our next class.